Do you guys remember Temari's summon? A lot of people don't, because she only uses it once in the series. And let me say, it's a cool summon. Now, I may be biased because I like Temari, but I want to talk about her summoning jutsu and how it's kinda broken. So when Shikamaru is fighting against Tayuya, and he's about to lose the fight because he's gonna run out of chakra and his shadow possession will end, Temari arrives to save her future husband. The Sand siblings were sent out by Tsunade to help out the Sasuke retrieval team, which were struggling a lot against Tayuya, Sakon, and Kimimaru. And obviously Temari is in charge of saving Shikamaru because yeah, they fought before, they have history together, and they're gonna have a lot more history together. And as always, when Temari arrives, she is extremely based. Tayuya uses her sound waves to try and cast a genjutsu on her and Shikamaru, but she simply brandishes her fan, and her wind-style jutsu blasts the sound waves away. And Temari does that before the sound waves even reach her and Shikamaru, meaning that Temari brandished her fan faster than the speed of sound. You can clearly see her moving the fan as the sound waves are going to arrive, but they're not on them yet. She blasts the sound away and attacks Tayuya at the same time, defending and attacking. Her wind style cuts through the trees, which makes Tayuya retreat because she's in a big disadvantage. Temari's jutsu is very good to counter her own sound jutsu. After Tayuya retreats, Shikamaru is like, oh, we are at a big disadvantage here because we can't find out where Tayuya is, and once her genjutsu hits us, because it's an auditory genjutsu, we're not gonna see it coming until it's too late, because we can only find where she is by listening to her jutsu, and when we listen to it, we're gonna be under the genjutsu already. So Shikamaru's like, yeah, we are at a big disadvantage here, we needed somebody like Kiba or Neji that could track someone down in order to beat Tayuya, but neither of us are a sensory type, so we should probably retreat, right, Temari? And Temari says, I didn't ask for your opinion, I only asked for your assessment of the situation. And she says they are obviously not going to retreat, because they don't have to. Temari has a way to beat her. She bites her thumb and spreads blood on her fan, using the summoning jutsu, Kirikirimai, or the quick beheading dance. She brandishes her fan, and this large weasel carrying several sickles around emerges out of it and flies towards Tayuya. This weasel has a name, and if you know the weasel's name, definitely say it in the comments below, because I did not know it before I did research for the video. The weasel is called Kamatari. It's this very large weasel with white fur and a dark green eye patch that covers his left eye. He carries a large sickle and several smaller sickles around himself, which are gonna give the name of the jutsu, the quick beheading dance. Now, the way the weasel is hugging the large sickle is kind of funny. It's almost as though they are two things in the same, and he just spins with it. And one interesting bit of trivia about Kamatari is that this summon is a reference to a Japanese yokai called Kamai Taichi, which is also the name of Temari's main wind-style jutsu. Kamai Taichi literally means scythe weasel, but in here, instead of Temari using a weasel that has sharp claws like a razor, because that's how Kamai Taichi got its name, no, it's a literal weasel carrying a scythe. And on top of the big one that he carries, there are some smaller ones that fluctuate around him and also spin with chakra. There's also a Chinese-style lantern with a kanji for the word scythe, which is kama in Japanese, and that lantern also seems to have some sort of chakra imbued in it. There's no information about if it does anything for the jutsu, if it provides any power to the weasel, but it certainly looks cool. I mean, the panel Temari uses the jutsu when she releases the weasel is a panel the size of an entire page, and it looks really interesting with the perspective of the weasel being launched and Temari and Shikamaru in the background. But why is this summon kinda broken? Well, once the weasel starts moving, it moves so fast you can no longer see it with a naked eye, and it cuts through everything in its path. Tayuya was ready to launch her genjutsu when she thought she was at a safe distance from Temari and Shikamaru, but she didn't see it coming. The weasel cut through the trees and quickly took care of Tayuya. And you may say, well, it's just Tayuya, it's not a big deal, but Tayuya was on the second stage of the curse mark when Temari did that. When the Sound 4 team used the second stage of the curse mark, they were able to beat 2 special jonins, Raido and Genma, and Temari freaking one-shot her with a jutsu. Well, technically it wasn't a one-shot because Temari used a few jutsus beforehand, so this wasn't the first time she hit Tayuya with anything, but still, you know what I mean, right? This jutsu kinda single-handedly defeated Tayuya. And the craziest shot of the whole battle is when we get a panel of the forest zoomed out after the weasel did its work. And it's a well zoomed out panel because we see a lot of the forest, and this massive section of it was completely destroyed with hundreds of trees, if not thousands of trees, cut through completely by the weasel. And they were cut cleanly. It wasn't as though they were destroyed or blown away by the wind. No, the scythes cut through everything in a split second pretty much. And if you take a look at the level of damage Temari did to that forest, that's not something normal for a genin in Naruto Part 1. Now yeah, later on, in this very same arc, we see Gaara and Kimimaru using jutsus that are larger in scale than Kirikirimai, like Gaara's Grand Sand Tsunami, or when Kimimaru essentially turns the battlefield into a forest of bones, and also when Naruto and Sasuke use their power-ups in their fight in the Valley of the End with the Curse Mark Stage 2 and the Nine Tails' Chakra Cloak. The final Chidori and Rasengan clash created that black orb of chakra that was very large, but in terms of damage, I mean, Temari did pretty well there. I'd say she even did better than Naruto and Sasuke in the Sasuke retrieval arc. So much so that she one-shotted Tayuya, as I said. Now, it is a little bit disappointing that Tayuya got killed by the trees falling over her and not by the slashes of the scythes, but I understand why Kishimoto didn't take that route, because if she was killed by the weasel itself, it would have probably been way too brutal, even though later in Naruto Shippuden people get chopped in half like Sasuke cuts Chubidara into, for example. So, I mean, I guess it's because Tayuya was a 14-year-old kid, so it would be too brutal to see her being mangled like that. But let's be real here, Sakon and Ukon were also 14, and their deaths, whoa, that was gruesome. What Kankuro did to them? Encasing them inside his puppet and then shoving dozens of blades into it? That was terrible. I mean, you don't exactly see what happens because you just see the puppet from the outside and the blood coming out of it, but imagining it is almost worse than seeing it, so I guess Kishimoto could have shown something kinda like that with Tayuya, and it would have made Temari's jutsu even more impactful. But by no means that's a bad thing, I'm just saying it would have been cool to see. When you think about it, it's a shame Temari never uses this jutsu again. Well, it's kinda because she never really has a 1v1 fight again in the series, which is a shame as well. After all, Temari is the best girl. But the weasel cut through that entire forest very quickly. And yeah, I guess it's one of those jutsus you blink and you miss it because it happens really quick, but imagine how cool it would be if Temari started to use the weasel in conjunction with her wind style jutsus later in Naruto Shippuden, for example. Yeah, she uses her wind style to blow the weasel outwards, to shoot it towards Tayuya and to make it start spinning, but imagine if the weasel spinned and Tayuya attacked at the same time with other wind style jutsus. It would have been really cool, and yes, I'm aware that the weasel was shown more than just once in the anime. There was a filler in Naruto Part 1 where Temari uses it. There's also a filler in the work where she fights against Torune and a couple of other weird ninjas where she uses it as well. And there's even a movie, Naruto the movie, where she uses the weasel, but never in the manga again, and that's because, yeah, Temari doesn't have a whole lot of screen time in Naruto Shippuden, unfortunately, which is something definitely not exclusive to her. A lot of cool characters don't get a lot to do in Shippuden, but the one time this jutsu was used in the manga, it was awesome. After Temari completely destroys the forest and finishes Tayuya off, Shikamaru looks at her with a bewildered face, but still glad she came to save him and thinks, oh well, she's as subtle as a rhino. And then Temari looks at him and smiles and says, what do you think? Shikamaru then thinks, wow, she is scarier than my mom. and that very much sets up their future relationship. Overall, very cool jutsu, very interesting summon. It's a shame we never see it again. Watch this other video right here for another cool, obscure Naruto summon. Comment below, and there's some that I could do. Definitely like the video, subscribe, and ring notifications. Those 3 things help me a lot, and they also help you get the videos more often. Thank you so much for watching.